This is the last ponder of the year. I lived my life according to the school year calendar since I was 5 years old, and I'm going to be 65 this summer.
Woo-hoo.
So that's 60 years of the school calendar. So that's just how I see the world. So end of the school year, end of the year. This ponder is going to relate back to the ponder I did at Lador. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what the one at Lador was, so that we're all together. So the one at Lador was the second in a series of Let's Think About Fairy Tales. Okay? The one at Lador was about Little Red Riding Hood. And that is a very complicated, or it can be a very complicated and interesting story to unpack as adults. What's really going on in the story, and what message is this story really giving, in particular, little girls. And the angle I took on the ponder was that what happens to Little Red is she is constantly told that her feelings and her intuitions are not valid, right? Well, she's knocking at the door and, Grandma says, come in, and she says, it doesn't sound like you, Grandma. And Grandma says, oh, no, it's me, right? You're wrong. Comes in, looks at her, well, what big ears you have, Grandma? All the better to hear you with, right? You're wrong. There's nothing wrong. And she gets given this message over and over again, till finally, depending which version of the story you read, really gross and bad things start happening, right? I mean, the wolf eats, clearly the wolf has already eaten Grandma. And then in some versions, the wolf eats Little Red Riding Hood. In some versions, before the wolf eats Little Red Riding Hood, the huntsman breaks through the door because she needs saved, right? She doesn't save herself, right? Comes in with the big axe. I'm going to save the day. And chops open the wolf, and then sometimes Grandma's still alive in there, which is pretty miraculous. She pops out. Okay, hi, Grandma. Now you smell bad, or whatever. Okay. And sometimes the wolf has eaten them both. The axeman comes, both of them pop out. And some of the versions, he cuts them open and they're dead. So we talked about what happens to us when we don't follow our intuition. And often it is not good if we don't follow our intuition. It's true in my life anyway, that those times I have ignored strong feelings, strong intuitions, things have gone very badly, very quickly. All right. So that is what we talked. This is the short version. This is what we talked about. So the fairy tale, or the folk tale that I want to talk about tonight is an African American folk tale called Wolf and Little Daughter. So I'm going to tell you the story. So there's a little girl, and she's talking with her dad, and her dad says, look, I have to go into town. And while I'm in town, I'm not going to be gone all day, but when I'm in town, I do not want you to leave the house. And under no circumstances are you leaving the gate. Do not open the gate. Do not go beyond the gate. Okay, I promise I won't do those things. Okay. So Dad leaves to go into town to do his business. And for a while, little daughter is doing her chores, enjoying the beautiful day, and then she's looking out the window, and she sees this flower that she has never ever seen before. And it's amazing. So she says, wow, stay in the gate. Okay. She goes outside, she's still in the gate, she sees the flower, she picks it, and it makes her very happy. And she has this little song she likes to sing when she's very happy. So, are we ready to hear the song?
Sure. And it's any little tune, yes?
Any little tunes, it just always needs to be the same one.
Okay,
When I
yes.
give you the signal.
Flower, flower, make me happy. Flower, flower, make it grow.
Fabulous. So she's singing, she's looking at the beautiful flower, and then just outside the gate, she sees another flower, but it's a different color. And she thinks, I've got to have this flower. She opens the gate. She's not very far outside the gate. She's outside the gate, and she picks the flower.
Flower, flower, makes me happy. Flower, flower, makes me grow.
Yes. And it happens again. Just a little further. And a little further still. And now she's in the woods. The last flower she picks, she sings her song.
Flower, flower, makes me happy. Flower, flower, makes me grow.
And around the tree comes the wolf. And the wolf says, little girl, those are beautiful flowers. And she starts thinking, all the things. I didn't listen to my dad. I am far away from the house. I have pretty flowers. And this is a beautiful wolf that is talking to me. The wolf says, I heard you singing. I really liked it. Would you sing again? So little daughter feels like we don't have a lot of options here, right? She's a little girl, he's a big wolf, so she sings.
Flower, flower, makes me happy. Flower, flower, makes me grow.
And something kind of interesting happens. The wolf becomes charmed and is frozen. And little daughter says, I gotta get out of here. So she starts walking backwards, walking backwards, walking backwards, walking backwards. And then the wolf's charm wears off. And the wolf says, little girl, you moved. And little daughter says, no, I didn't. You moved. Why would I need to move? The wolf thinks and doesn't have an answer. So he says, well, I should do that song. Would you sing it again? She says yes, and she sings it again, hoping the same thing happens, and it does. And the wolf is charmed, can't move, and she's walking backwards. Okay, the wolf, the charm wears off, and again the wolf says, you're moving. You're running away. And little daughter says, I am not running away. I am not. Would you sing the song again? She sings the song again. And eventually, little daughter gets back inside and walks it, runs, slams the door shut, bolts it. This is a folk tale from a very different culture than the Western European culture that wrote and developed the Little Red Riding Hood stories. Often, as you, I'm sure, all know, in African American experiences in the New World, there there was no huntsman coming to save them, right? You had to learn how to save yourself. So, little daughter does just that. She uses her several talents, right? Some of her talents, a little bit of lying, frankly, okay? But for a good purpose, right? A little bit of turn the tables, like I'm not running. Why would I run? I'm never going to run. And her beautiful voice. And realizing this is what's going to save me. This is what's going to help me. So I'm going to use it until I can get back into the house and first thing. And to me, those two stories are always so strikingly different and interesting to compare. About what message are you giving your child? What message are you giving your daughter? I think this story would work equally as well with Little Son and the Wolf. But, you know, so many fairy tales and folk tales are centered around young girls or young women. And we know that there's, over the past, group of years, a lot of dads and moms that have had to tell their young children that are people of color that they need to be very careful and need to have a script ready about what to say if they get challenged, to not fight back, to not do all kinds of things to try to survive. So the story about using your own talents, right? Use your own wits. Use what you have at hand to do what you need to do to survive is really what's at the base of Wolf and Little Dog. And it's not bad advice for anyone, actually, right? Use what we have. And because, look, sometimes we're going to disobey. That's also a central part of this story, right? We're gonna disobey. She disobeyed. Okay. Well, when you break the rules or disobey, kind of have a plan B going, or whatever. Have a sense of what you can do if you get in a tight spot. Right? That's why you always tell somebody if you're going out on a date, right? Where you're going, call me at 9 o'clock. All those kind of things that many of us got told as we were growing up, right? Have a plan, right? So you've worked it out for yourself. So, I think it's an important folk tale, and it came from a book called Our People Can Fly, which is a collection of African American folk tales put together by, I think, Jennifer Hamilton. Her last name is Hamilton for sure. And I think her first name is J. And there are some very good folk stories in there. So consider where folk tales come from and why they come from the places they do. So something to ponder is using our talents to keep ourselves whole and safe and protected, right? Set boundaries. Be safe. Plan ahead if you can. Love yourself. All those things, right? So, everybody has a lovely summer. And see what there is to ponder in the fall. And I don't know if anyone wants to talk about this. We talked a little bit after the story of the door. We don't have to talk if you don't want to. There's no requirement. And if you have any ideas for ponders, just shoot them my way. I also want to say that on Sunday, this coming Sunday, I am yet again giving a sermon at the Unitarian Church because we only have a part-time minister. So I'm going to be doing the Day of Piglet and talking about recognizing our strengths and owning them and developing them, which was a sort of early ponder. I'm going to go into a little bit more detail, and to be honest, because of that audience, some of it may get a little, I'm going to use the word cool. So I'll give the post for the live link to Erin, and she can post it if you were so